So I'm reviewing homework from last night. This is question number 1. Really, just look at the questions that you missed. So if you got number 1 right, you can go ahead and skip the video to get to the first question that you missed. Make sure you watch the explanation, and if you need to copy down the work or change anything that you did, be sure to do that. So for number 1, these are all multi-step inequalities, so we solve them just like we solve multi-step equations. We distribute, combine like terms on each side, bring variables to one side, and then solve. So first thing we're going to do for this one is distribute. So we have negative 8 times 1, that'll give us negative 8. Negative 8 times positive 5m, that's negative 40m. And we're not changing the sign. Remember, we only change the sign if we divide or multiply by a negative. And it's less than or equal to negative 288. So we've distributed. Combine like terms, I can't combine anything on the left or on the right, so we're just going to leave that alone. Bring all variables to one side. Our variable is already on one side, so we don't have to do anything with that. We're just going to solve now. So I have negative 40m. Negative 40 times m is what's closest to it, so I'm going to start a little bit further away and look at this minus 8. So how could we undo minus 8? Let's do the inverse. Let's add 8 so that we can create a 0 pair. That's a 0 pair, and we're just left with negative 40m is less than or equal to negative 280, because we added 8 to that. From here, we're just going to divide both sides by negative 40. Divide by negative 40. All right, alarm's going off in my head. I'm dividing by a negative. I have to flip my sign. So I'm going to get rid of this so I can see it a little bit better. It is now going to be greater than or equal to. We have m is greater than or equal to 7. So if you looked at your answer choices, A, B, C, or D, C was the only one that had 7, and it was a number line with 7 with a closed circle going to the right because it's m is greater than, so it'll go to the right towards positive infinity. All right, let's go to the next one. So we have number 2. It was negative 2 times 1 minus 7x is greater than 110. Distribute, combine, bring, solve. Donuts can be salty. Distribute. Negative 2 times 1 gives us negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 7x is a positive 14x. Sign stays the same, and we have 110 on the right. We don't need to combine like terms or bring all variables to one side because there's only one variable. We're just going to solve from here. So I have a positive 14x. So we'll start with this negative 2, do the inverse, which is add 2. We do this so that we can create a 0 pair, and we're left with 14x is greater than 112. Now we can divide both sides by 14 and check that in your calculator. 112 divided by 14. And we divided by a positive 14, so we don't need to flip our sign. We're just going to keep it as x is greater than 8. D is the only answer that has 8. It's got a number line with an open circle, greater than, moving to the right. Number 3, we have 5n minus 7 plus 6n is less than or equal to 15. Donuts can be salty. So we don't need to distribute anything, so we can cross that off. We'll go to the next step, which is combine like terms on each side. I've got a 5n plus 6n. Combining is just adding those two. So 5 plus 6 will give us 11n, and minus 7 just stays the same. Our sign stays the same, less than or equal to 15. Our variable is only on one side, so we don't have to do anything there, and we're just going to solve. I have 11n minus 7, so we'll do the inverse, which is plus 7. We have 11n is less than or equal to 22. Finally, divide by 11. N is less than or equal to 2. So the best answer choice was C. It has a number line with a closed circle because it's less than or equal to, and it's less than, so it's moving to the left. For this, we have 2 minus 8v minus 7v is greater than negative 13. Donuts can be salty. All right, nothing to distribute. Remember, if we were distributing something, we would have some number and then parentheses with a sum in it, but we don't have any of that, so we don't need to distribute. Combine like terms, I've got negative 8v, negative 7v, so let's add those together. Negative 8 plus negative 7 gives us negative 15v, and the 2 just comes down in front. It's greater than negative 13. Bring all variables to one side. Variable is just on the left, it's all alone, so we don't need to do anything there. But we can definitely solve. So we've got negative 15v. Negative 15 is multiplying v, so I'm really going to look to see how I can do the inverse of positive 2. That's going to be minus 2. The reason we do that is so that becomes a zero pair. We have negative 15v is greater than negative 15. From here, we divide both sides by negative 15, and we're dividing by a negative, so we have to flip the sign. It goes from a greater than to a less than, so we have v is less than 1. So number 4 had answer choices A and D with 1 in it, but the best answer is going to be A. So it's a number line less than 1, so open circle going to the left. And finally, we have number 5. So we have negative 88 is greater than or equal to negative 2n minus 6 parentheses 4 plus n. Donuts can be salty. So we can definitely distribute here. There's a negative 6 times 4, that becomes negative 24. Then negative 6 times positive n, it's just negative 6n. Everything else stays the same. Combine. I don't need to combine anything on the left because it's just negative 88, but I can definitely combine negative 2n and negative 6n. That's just going to become negative 8n minus 24 comes down. The variable is on one side already, so now we just solve. I have negative 8n, start furthest from the variable, so that's add 24, add 24. So we have negative 64 is greater than or equal to negative 8n. We're going to divide by that coefficient, negative 8. We're dividing by a negative, so we have to take that sign and flip it around. Negative 64 divided by negative 8 is a positive 8. Here's where things can get a little tricky. If you looked at the answer choices, A was the only one that had 8, but if we're looking at 8 is less than or equal to n, and our answer choice puts n on the left side and 8 on the right side, they also are going to switch the sign. So if we do that and we put n on the left, 8 on the right, we have to take that sign and flip it. Because if you notice, in the first example, the sign is opening up towards n. In this example, it's still opening up towards n. So n is greater than or equal to 8. It'll be a number line with a closed circle on 8 going to the right.